The small crowned one who belonged to the stars, but stayed for him the sky above the mining world was always gray. Dust moved slowly in the air, and the light from the weak sun felt tired. The planet was small and forgotten, used only for deep rock mining. Most people who lived there did not dream big dreams. They worked, ate, slept, and waited for the next shift. Eli was one of them. He was not important. He fixed broken machines, cleaned old cables, and repaired doors that no longer closed right. His hands were always dirty, and his boots were worn thin. He had no family left and no reason to leave the planet. The stars were just lights to him, nothing more. That night, Eli was walking back from a late repair job when the ground shook. At first, he thought it was another tunnel collapse. Those happened often. But then the air changed. The dust froze in place, as if time itself had stopped. A deep sound rolled across the sky, not loud, but heavy. It felt like something very old was moving. Eli looked up. The clouds split apart and a line of fire cut through the gray sky. It fell fast, faster than any ship he had ever seen. The light burned white, then blue, then disappeared beyond the hills. A moment later, the impact came. The ground shook so hard that Eli fell to his knees. Rocks slid down nearby slopes. Alarms began to sound from the mining towers in the distance. People shouted, but Eli did not run. He stood up slowly and looked toward where the fire had fallen. Something inside him told him to go there. The crash site was a broken field of black stone and melted metal. Smoke rose in slow waves. At the center was a shape half buried in the ground. It did not look like any ship Ellie knew. The surface was smooth, without marks or seams. It looked grown, not built. The shape was broken open. Inside there was no fire, no smoke, only silence. Then Eli heard a sound. A small sound, soft like breathing. He climbed closer, his heart pounding. Inside the broken shell, lying on a glowing surface, was a child. The child was small, no older than 4 or 5. His skin was pale, his hair dark. He wore no clothing, yet he did not seem cold. Above his head floated something impossible, a thin ring of light, shaped like a crown. It did not touch him. It hovered, turning slowly, glowing with a soft blue color. Symbols moved along its surface, shifting like water. Eli froze. He had seen strange things on this planet before, but nothing like this. The child opened his eyes. They were bright, too bright, not glowing, but deep, like looking into a night sky full of stars. The child looked straight at Eli, and fear crossed his face. He began to cry. The moment the sound left the child's mouth, every machine on the planet shut down. Lights across the mining field went dark. Distant engines died. Communication towers went silent. Even Eli's small wrist tool lost power and fell dead in his hand. The crying stopped just as suddenly. The machines stayed silent. Eli stared, breathing hard. The child looked around, confused, then looked back at Eli. The crown dimmed slightly, as if reacting to his emotions. Eli did the only thing he could think to do. He reached out his hand slowly and picked the child up. The crown moved with the child, never touching him, never falling. The child clung to Eli's shirt, trembling. He smelled clean, like rain, not like metal or smoke. Sirens grew louder in the distance. Security teams would arrive soon. The crash could not be hidden. Eli made a choice without thinking. He turned away from the crash. and walked into the hills. By morning, the planet was in chaos. Officials searched the crash site. Soldiers argued. Scanners showed nothing useful. There was no body, no ship core, no signal. They said it must have burned up. They were wrong. Eli hid the child in his small living space near the lower tunnels. The room was barely big enough for one person. Now it held two. Eli wrapped the child in old blankets and gave him water. The child drank without fear, watching Eli closely. They did not speak. The child did not seem hurt. His breathing was calm. The crown hovered quietly, dim and still. When Eli tried to power up a small heater, it failed. Nothing electrical worked near the child. Eli realized then that the shutdown was not over. It followed the child. He laughed softly, tired and scared at the same time. "You really fell far from home," he said, though he did not know if the child understood. That night, while the planet struggled to restart its systems, something else happened far away. Deep in space, beyond mapped routes and known borders, an ancient structure stirred. It had waited a long time, silent and patient. A signal touched it, faint but clear. The crown had awakened. The structure sent out a pulse, silent and fast. It traveled through dark space, through dead systems and sleeping fleets. One by one, distant objects began to move. Back on the mining world, the child slept for the first time since the crash. Eli sat beside him, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. He felt strange peace, mixed with fear. Just before dawn, the child stirred. He opened his eyes and looked at Eli. For the first time, he spoke. "Home," the child said softly. Eli felt his heart sink. Outside, the stars shifted, unnoticed by anyone else. Something was coming. The days passed slowly on the mining world. Eli tried to keep life normal, but nothing was normal anymore. The child, who never spoke before, began to change quickly. He grew taller, his hair darker, and his eyes sharper. Every day he seemed to learn something new. He watched machines, read screens, and studied the stars. It was as if he remembered everything, but from somewhere Eli could not understand. Eli gave him a name. He called him Nilo. It was simple, easy to say, and he hoped it would make the child feel safe. Nilo did not argue. He only nodded, his crown glowing faintly whenever Eli was near. Nilo began to show strange abilities. One morning, a small mining drill broke. Eli went to fix it, but when he got close, the drill suddenly started on its own. It spun, moved, and dug a hole deeper than Eli had ever seen. Nilo smiled faintly, as if he had been the one to make it work. "You did that?" Eli asked. Surprised, Nilo nodded slightly. "I help," he said softly. Machines were not the only thing Nilo could control. Once, when a heavy shelf fell in Eli's workspace, it stopped mid-air, frozen, as if held by invisible hands. The crown above his head shone brightly, then dimmed when the shelf returned to the ground. Eli realized Nilo was not just smart. He was powerful, but Nilo was still a child. He laughed, cried, and sometimes hid under blankets when the wind was too cold. Eli began to feel responsible for him. He could not let the world see Nilo. He knew that if anyone discovered the crown, or the strange powers, the child would be taken away. Strangers arrived on the planet. At first they claimed to be traders from a nearby system. Their ships were sleek and quiet. They wore uniforms, their faces unreadable, but something about them made Eli uneasy. He noticed how they looked around the mining world, scanning everything. They never asked questions, but they watched. They moved like predators, patient and silent. One evening, the strangers appeared near Eli's home. Nilo was playing quietly on the floor, watching him build a small model of a mining rig. The strangers' sensors could not see Nilo, but they sensed something powerful. Their eyes shifted toward the small room, calculating, measuring, and sending hidden signals into the air. Eli felt a sudden tension. He could not explain it, but he knew they were dangerous. He moved Nilo to a hidden tunnel below the living area. It was narrow, dark, and damp, but it was safe. The child followed without complaint, holding Eli's hand tightly. The crown glowed, small and calm, as if it understood the danger. "You're not from here, are you?" Eli asked quietly. Nilo did not answer. He only looked at the stars through a small tunnel opening. "You miss home?" Eli asked, though he did not expect an answer. Nilo nodded slightly. "Home," he said again, his voice soft but certain. Eli realized something. Nilo did not belong to this planet. He belonged somewhere else, somewhere far beyond the stars. Yet he stayed here, with Eli. Days later, Nilo began to speak more. He said simple things at first, repeating words Eli used. But soon, he began to teach himself to understand human machines and devices. He repaired broken circuits without instructions, and even made small engines work faster than Eli thought possible. One night, while Eli slept, Nilo sat outside the tunnel. He looked at the sky, the faint stars visible through the dusty clouds. He whispered words in a language Eli did not know. The crown above his head rotated slowly, glowing with faint blue light. It seemed to respond to the stars themselves. A signal reached Nilo from deep space. It was faint, almost like a whisper, but he recognized it immediately. He shivered, and for the first time, fear crossed his face. Eli noticed but did not understand. "Something coming?" Eli asked. Nilo nodded. "They look," he said softly. Eli's heart sank. He realized that the strangers were not alone. Something greater, older, and far more dangerous was coming for Nilo. He tried to hide his fear. "We will protect you," he said.
"No one will take you from here." The child nodded but did not speak. Instead, he placed his small hand on Eli's shoulder.
The crown glowed brightly for a moment, and Eli felt warmth flow through him. It was as if the child was giving him strength. The strangers were patient. They moved carefully across the mining world, pretending to trade, asking casual questions, but they were scanning for one thing: for Nilo. Eli knew that they would not leave until they found him. The crown pulsed when danger was near. Sometimes it woke Eli in the middle of the night, alerting him before the strangers even entered the area. One evening, the strangers cornered a small group of miners in a distant tunnel. The miners panicked, trying to fight, but the strangers were too fast. Nilo, sensing the danger, appeared behind them. He did not touch the strangers, but the lights went out, and their weapons stopped moving. Eli ran toward the scene, amazed. The strangers fell to the ground, confused and powerless. Nilo had not spoken. He had not moved much. Yet the crown had done everything. Eli grabbed the child and ran. "You have to stay with me," he said. Nilo only nodded. Later, when they were safe in their hidden tunnel, Ellie asked, "How do you do it?" Nilo looked down at his small hands. "I see," he said. "I know." Eli understood that Nilo was not just a child. He was something far greater. He belonged to the stars. The crown above his head was proof. It was not decoration. It was a symbol of power and knowledge beyond anything Eli could imagine. That night, Eli could not sleep. He watched Nilo breathe softly under the blanket, the crown dim above his head. Outside, the sky was calm, but Eli knew it would not stay calm for long. Something in space had noticed the crown, something old, patient, and dangerous. And now it was moving toward the mining world. Nilo stirred in his sleep and whispered a single word. Home. Eli's hands tightened around his knees. He had no idea what the stars meant to Nilo, but he knew one thing. He could not let them take him. Not ever. As the planets slept, silent signals raced across the galaxy, reaching fleets and sentinels that had not moved for centuries. Something was coming for the small crowned one, and Eli realized that they were running out of time. The next morning, Nilo began to walk farther from the tunnel. He touched the machines, speaking quietly to them in a language Ellie could not understand. The machines obeyed. Broken engines started. Lights flickered on. Even mining bots turned and moved faster, more precise. The crown glowed steadily now. It was calm, but it was ready. Eli walked beside him, worried. It won't always be safe, he said softly. Nilo looked at him with serious eyes. I know, he said. A sudden hum filled the air. Eli looked around, startled. It was faint at first, then louder. The strangers had activated something. He could feel it in his chest. They are clothes, Nilo said. Eli's stomach tightened. He knew the mining world offered no real protection. They were small, vulnerable. But Nilo was not small, not weak. The crown above his head proved that. Then we fight, Eli said, his voice trembling. Nilo looked at him, silent. Whoa. Then the crown shone brighter than ever, reflecting the first rays of the sun breaking through the gray clouds. The mining world seemed to pause, listening. Something was coming, something that had waited for centuries. And for the first time, Eli understood that Nilo was the reason the universe had moved again. The small crowned one who belonged to the stars was awake, and he had chosen to stay with Eli. But the galaxy was not silent. Far away, distant fleets began to stir. A message pulsed in the void, clear and cold. The crown had called them. Eli tightened his hands around Nilo's small shoulders. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew one thing. They would face it together. The stars watched, patient and bright. Something ancient had begun its journey to the mining world, and for the first time, Eli understood what it meant to belong to someone who was not entirely human. The crown shone steadily, the hum of power in the air, and the child whispered again, softly, home. Eli smiled faintly, hiding his fear. Then we stay, he said. The universe waited. The sky above the mining world darkened even though it was still early morning. Clouds moved fast, pushed by winds that seemed stronger than usual. Eli watched from the hidden tunnels, the small child Nilo, close beside him. The crown floated steadily above the boy's head, calm but glowing faintly blue. Something had changed. Nilo was no longer just a child who could fix machines. He had begun to understand the world around him in ways Eli could not. He could sense danger before it arrived. He could move things without touching them. And the crown seemed alive, reacting to his emotions and his thoughts.
We cannot hide forever. Eli said quietly. He had not slept well in days.
Every sound in the tunnels made him jump. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Nilo looked up at him. "They come," he said softly. His voice was calm, but the seriousness in his eyes made Eli shiver. "They are not human," Eli whispered. "I have seen them. They are fast, smart, and patient. They do not forget." Nilo nodded, but he did not look afraid. He touched the walls of the tunnels, and the metal pipes shivered under his hand. "They respect power," he said, "not weakness." Ile frowned. "What do you mean?" "The crown," Nilo said. "They see it. They know it belongs to me."
They want it. They want me.
Eli tightened his hands into fists. "Then we will not give it to them." The boy did not respond, but his eyes turned to the sky. Eli followed his gaze and saw something he had never noticed before. Far above the clouds, there was a faint shimmer, like a ripple in the air. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it moved toward the planet slowly, steadily.
"They are coming," Nilo said.
Eli swallowed hard. He had no weapons, no fleet, no army, just himself and Nilo. And yet... He felt a strange confidence. Nilo was more than a child. Nilo was something else, something powerful. And Eli understood that the crown was not just a decoration. It was a command, a key, a weapon. Hours passed. The strangers had not yet arrived, but Eli knew they were near. He tried to prepare, moving what supplies he could into the tunnels, reinforcing doors and hiding everything of value. Nilo watched quietly, studying everything Eli did. At first, the child spoke very little, but then he began to explain things. Simple at first, then more complex. "The crown binds ships," he said one evening. "It talks to engines. It makes machines obey." Eli shook his head.
"I don't understand. How can a child do this?"
Nilo shrugged. "I am not just a child," he said. "I belong to the stars. I am made to lead. The crown chooses the one it will follow." Eli felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He realized then that the crown was not something that could be stolen or taken by force. It was alive, linked to Nilo, and it would obey only him. That night the mining world was quiet, but Eli could feel tension in the air. Nilo sat outside the hidden tunnel, staring at the distant horizon. The crown rotated slowly above his head, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. "They will come for me," Nilo said. "They will not stop until I am gone." Eli knelt beside him. "Then we fight," he said, though he did not know how. The boy nodded, but he did not look at Eli. His eyes were fixed on the sky. Eli could see intelligence there, old and vast, as if Nilo knew things humans could not even imagine. Suddenly a signal appeared in the air, invisible to Eli but sensed by Nilo. The crown pulsed, bright and steady. The child reached out, and the air seemed to bend slightly. The signal went silent. "They watch," Nilo said. "They know where we are." Eli's heart pounded. He knew that this was no longer just about hiding. It was about survival. And he also realized something else. Nilo had a choice. He could stay here with Eli, small and hidden, or he could answer the call of the stars. Days passed. Nilo grew stronger, faster, smarter. He learned to repair machines without touching them, to make systems work by thinking, and to move objects with the crown above him. His laughter sounded like a normal child's, but it was mixed with the weight of knowledge no child should have. One morning Eli woke to find Nilo outside, talking to the stars. "They come from far," he said, "from the old systems. They wait. They will not stop." Eli frowned. "Who are they?" "They are my people," Nilo said. "The rulers of the stars. They sent me here because I am small, but they will call me back. They do not know I stay." Eli's heart sank. "They will take you," Nilo shook his head. "I stay for you." Eli could not believe it. The child, the small crowned one who belonged to the stars, had chosen to stay on this tiny, dusty planet, far below the stars, with him. But the calm did not last. The strangers appeared again, this time in the air above the mining world. Their ships were sleek, silent, and fast. They moved like hunters, circling, scanning, and probing. Eli ran to the hidden tunnel with Nilo. The crown glowed brighter as they arrived, spinning slowly, a shield of quiet power around the boy. The strangers landed near the tunnels. Their weapons were silent, but Eli could see them aiming at the entrance. He gripped a metal pipe, ready to fight. But Nilo placed his small hand on his shoulder. The crown flared. Suddenly, all machines nearby shut down. Lights went out. Vehicles stopped. The strangers' weapons froze midair. Their scanners went silent. They were powerless. Ellie stared in disbelief. "How?" Nilo looked calm. "I protect," he said. The strangers tried to move, to fight, but every attempt failed. The crown above Nilo's head was a shield, a power they could not break. Eli realized that Nilo had become more than a child. He had become a force of nature. After what seemed like hours, the strangers finally retreated. Their ships lifted silently into the sky and disappeared into the clouds. Eli collapsed to the ground, exhausted and shaking.
"You are—"
"Amazing," he whispered. Nilo smiled faintly. "I only stay because I choose to," he said. "They do not understand." Eli nodded, still trying to catch his breath. He understood now that Nilo's powers were not just for survival. They were a test, a lesson, a gift. Nilo had chosen to stay with him, and that choice had changed everything. The next day, Eli noticed something strange. The crown glowed faintly even when there was no danger. Nilo seemed aware of it. "They wait," he said softly. "They test." Eli frowned. "Ready for what?" Nilo looked up at the stars. "To lead," he said. "To take my place? I was born to rule, but I choose not to." Eli felt a mix of awe and fear. The child was small, fragile in appearance, but his mind and power were beyond anything Eli could imagine. And yet, he had chosen to stay. Weeks passed. The mining world became a quiet battlefield of patience. Eli and Nilo lived in hidden tunnels, repairing machines, hiding from scanners, and learning from each other. Nilo learned quickly, teaching Eli small lessons about the crown and the stars. One night, while Eli slept, Nilo left the tunnel. He walked outside under the faint light of the gray sun. The crown rotated above his head, glowing softly. He whispered words to the sky, words Eli could not understand. A pulse of energy moved across the planet. Machines hummed. Lights flickered. For a moment, it felt as if the world itself had awakened. Eli woke to find Nilo standing in the middle of the room. His eyes were bright, filled with a strange light. They are close, Nilo said. The old systems are coming. They will not stop until I am gone. Then we fight, he said. Nilo nodded. The crown glowed brighter, reflecting the determination in his eyes. He placed his small hand on Eli's shoulder. Eli felt warmth, power, and a strange courage flow through him. I stay, Nilo said, for you, for this world. Eli felt tears in his eyes. He knew then that he would follow Nilo anywhere. The stars might call him, ancient fleets might arrive, but the boy had chosen him. Outside, the sky was calm for the moment, but Eli knew it would not stay calm for long. Far above, fleets were moving, signals were sent, and the universe was awakening to the small crowned one who had chosen to stay. And Eli realized something. The galaxy would never be the same. The small crowned one belonged to the stars, yes, but he stayed for him, and that choice was more powerful than anything Eli could ever imagine. The sky over the mining world was darker than usual. Storm clouds gathered, but it was not the weather that made the air heavy. Eli and Nilo could feel it, something moving in the skies above. Distant hums, barely audible, pulsed through the atmosphere. The crown above Nilo's head glowed steadily, a faint blue that brightened every time a signal reached him. Eli stood beside the child, trying to steady his hands. They are getting closer, he said. His voice sounded small against the vast quiet of the tunnels. Nilo did not look at him. His eyes were fixed on the sky. They see everything, he said softly. The old systems do not forget. They wait. They test. They judge. Eli swallowed. And they will attack? Nilo nodded. They will. They cannot allow me to stay. I belong to them. Eli clenched his fists. He had no weapons that could harm fleets from the stars. The mining world had no defenses, no army, no hope. And yet, he felt something in the crown's glow, something powerful. Nilo was not just a child. Nilo was a force no fleet had counted on. The hum grew louder as if something large moved in orbit above the planet. Lights flashed in the clouds, signaling the approach of ships. They were massive, shapes Eli had never imagined, smooth and black with edges that seemed to cut through the air. He counted at least 5 of them, and he knew there could be more.
They are strong, Eli whispered.
Nilo's small hand rested on his shoulder. The crown pulsed. We are stronger, he said. We fight differently. Eli nodded, unsure what that meant. He had seen Nilo stop machines, make metal move, and bend the world without touching it. But fleets from the old systems were not machines. They were trained, armed, and deadly. The ships hovered, silent. Then one of them moved downward, slowly lowering itself into the mining zone. Eli's heart raced. Soldiers poured from the ship, their armor shining faintly in the dim light. They carried weapons that hummed with power, capable of destroying entire buildings with a single shot. And Nilo stepped forward. The crown above him began to spin, glowing brighter with every movement of the soldiers. Eli wanted to pull him back, to hide him, but Nilo did not falter. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Eli tensed, ready to strike with a metal pipe. But before he could move, the crown pulsed again. A wave of energy swept across the mining field. Lights went out, engines froze, and weapons stopped mid-air. The soldiers tried to move, but they were frozen in place, their suits locking as if obeying an invisible command. Eli stared in disbelief. Nilo's small voice was calm. "I do not want to fight," he said. "But I will protect." The crown glowed so brightly that shadows fled, and the soldiers fell to their knees. Powerless, the wave of energy spread further, cutting off communications between their ships and satellites. For the first time, Eli understood the full power of the child. Hours passed. The soldiers could not move, and the ships hovered silently above. Nilo remained calm, walking slowly through the field, studying everything, learning how to control it. The crown spun, pulsing with each step. Eli followed closely, his heart pounding. "You can control them?" he asked. Nilo nodded. "I understand their machines. I see their signals. They obey me because I am the crowned one." Eli shook his head. "You are still a child," he said softly. "How can this be?" Nilo looked at him, his eyes serious. "I was born to lead," he said. "The old systems gave me the crown. They expected me to obey. I choose differently." Eli's chest tightened. He realized that Nilo's choice was not just about him, about staying on this planet. It was about defying an entire civilization. The old systems had rules, fleets, and armies that had ruled the stars for centuries, and Nilo, a small child, had chosen to oppose them. The first attack came in the night. The ships fired silent beams of energy that melted metal and ignited dust. Eli and Nilo hid in the tunnels, but Nilo's crown pulsed, creating a shield that blocked every strike. The energy bounced back into the sky, damaging the ships. The soldiers tried to move, but the crown's power held them. Ellie watched, amazed. The child who had fallen from the stars was now defending an entire world, and yet he still looked like a small boy, laughing softly when he felt the wind, touching the crown as if it were a friend. Days passed in this tense rhythm. Attacks came and went. Every time, Nilo's crown protected the mining world. Every time, Eli learned something new. Nilo did not fight like humans. He did not use weapons. He did not destroy unnecessarily. He used his mind, his will, and the crown. One morning, Nilo led Eli outside. The ships were far above, watching, but they did not attack. Nilo raised his hand slightly. The crown pulsed and sent signals into space. Eli could feel the power in his chest. The world seemed to pause. Even the wind stopped moving. "They listen," Nilo said. "They wait for me to answer. They want me to return, to obey. I will not." Eli realized then that the child's actions were not just defense. They were a message to the old systems, to the galaxy. The small crowned one was making a choice, and that choice had consequences far beyond their world. The tension was broken by a voice, cold and deep, coming from one of the ships. Eli could feel it in his mind rather than hear it. Nilo flinched slightly, but did not move. "You do not belong here," the voice said. "The crown is ours. You will return." Nilo's crown spun faster, glowing brighter. "I choose," he said, "not you, not them. I choose my own path." The voice was silent for a moment. Then the ship pulsed, sending a wave of energy toward the planet. Eli braced himself, expecting destruction. But the crown expanded, a dome of light that enveloped Nilo and Eli. The energy hit the shield and scattered harmlessly across the mining field. Eli fell to his knees, exhausted and amazed. How are you doing this?" he whispered. Nilo looked at him calmly. I do not fight to destroy, he said. I fight to protect, to show strength, to choose. Eli realized the truth. The old systems ruled by fear, by power, by force. Nilo's way was different. He was small, fragile in appearance, but his choice, his will, and his protection of humans made him stronger than any fleet. That night Nilo and Eli returned to the tunnels. The crown glowed softly, and the child lay down beside Eli. They will not leave, Nilo said. They will test again. They will not stop. Eli held him close. Da? Then we will be ready, he said. Together. The next day, the first fleet finally moved closer. Ships descended slowly, cautiously, scanning every inch of the mining world. Soldiers moved in, weapons raised. But the crown pulsed, and the field around the child spread wider than before. The soldiers froze again, their machines stopping mid-action. Eli watched, amazed and terrified. The child, the small crowned one who had fallen from the stars, was not just defending a planet. He was defying a civilization. He was teaching them that power could be different, that strength could be used without fear. Weeks passed. Every attack was met with the same calm control. The old systems tested Nilo in different ways, sending stronger waves of machines, more soldiers, more ships. But every time the crown protected, and the child's intelligence and understanding of machines, humans, and strategies grew. Eli realized something important. Nilo was not just learning to defend the mining world. He was learning to fight in a way the stars had never seen. Humans fought for courage, for hope, for choices. Nilo was learning that. And by staying with him, he was becoming something beyond even the old system's understanding. One evening, as the sun set behind the gray clouds, Nilo stood outside. The crown rotated slowly above him, casting blue light across the mining field. Eli joined him. They will return? Eli said. Nilo nodded. They always do, he said. But I know now. I am ready. Eli looked at the child, still small in appearance, but immense in power and will.
Ready for what? He asked. To protect, Nilo said.
To choose to show them that power is not control. That strength is in the heart, not the crown. Eli felt tears in his eyes. The small child from the stars had become more than a protector. He had become a symbol, a new way of thinking. And Eli understood something he had not before. Humans, their courage and choices, had inspired Nilo to stay, to learn, and to fight differently than anyone in the galaxy had ever fought. The crown glowed brightly as the first fleet moved away for the night. Eli held Nilo close. The stars above seemed to shine just for them, calm and patient. The small crowned one had begun to show the universe a new way, and Eli knew that the battles to come would change everything forever. The mining world was quiet, but Eli knew it was only a calm before the storm. Nilo had grown stronger. The crown above his head glowed steadily, bright enough to cast shadows across the tunnels. Every day Nilo learned more about the old systems, their fleets, their machines, and their logic. He could see their signals in the stars and feel their intentions like a heartbeat in space. Eli watched him carefully, afraid to interrupt, afraid to be useless. He had no weapons, no skills beyond repairing machines, and yet he was part of this fight. Nilo had chosen him to be his companion, his friend, the one who kept him human, kept him grounded. Eli did not take that lightly. They will come. Eli said softly, pacing the tunnel floor. "They will not stop until you return to them." Nilo did not answer immediately. He sat on the floor, hands resting on his knees, eyes closed. The crown above him rotated slowly, glowing faintly.
"They think they can scare me," he said finally.
They do not know that strength is not only in fleets and weapons, it is in the heart, in the choice. "I choose differently." Ellie nodded. "And we stand with you." The first fleet arrived at dawn. Ships appeared in the thin light above the clouds, massive and silent. Soldiers dropped to the surface, armored and dangerous. Their weapons hummed with energy, and the air seemed to grow heavy under their presence. Eli's heart raced. He felt the weight of helplessness pressing down, but he kept his hands steady. Nilo stepped outside. The crown above his head spun faster, glowing brighter with each heartbeat. He raised his small hand, and the air itself seemed to bend slightly, as if listening to him. The soldiers tried to advance. Their weapons fired, silent beams that cut metal and ignited dust. Energy spread outward, a protective dome around Nilo that made the beams harmless. Soldiers fell to their knees, their machines locked and useless. Even the ships above staggered in their approach, affected by Nilo's control. Eli could only watch, amazed and terrified. The small child who had fallen from the stars was now controlling entire fleets. He was not just defending the mining world. He was showing the old systems that their rules did not apply to him. A voice came from the lead ship, deep, cold, and commanding. It echoed in Eli's mind as well as Nilo's. "Return. You are ours. The crown belongs to the old systems. You will obey." Nilo shook his head. "I do not obey," he said. "I protect. I choose. I choose."
"I stay." The lead ship pulsed with energy, a wave that could destroy mountains.
Eli braced himself, expecting disaster, but the crown above Nilo expanded, a dome of pure light that pushed the wave back, scattering it harmlessly into the sky. The soldiers fell again, powerless. Eli looked at Nilo, realizing that this was more than defense. The child was not just stopping attacks, he was teaching the old systems a lesson. Their power could not force him to obey. Their fleets could not take him. Their weapons could not harm him. He was a new kind of strength, one they had never imagined. Hours passed. The fleets tested him repeatedly, sending waves of ships and soldiers trying to find a weakness. Nilo remained calm. The crown rotated above his head, glowing steadily, responding to each attack with precision. He did not panic. He did not strike unnecessarily. He defended, controlled, and protected. Eli stayed close, helping where he could, but mostly just watching. He realized that humans had taught Nilo something he had not learned in the stars: courage, loyalty, and the power of choice. The old system was ruled by control, but Nilo had learned to fight by protecting, by inspiring, by choosing differently. On the third day, a new challenge arrived. The lead ship sent a signal directly to Nilo, visible as a wave of light in the sky. It was a direct message commanding him to return. "You will obey, or we will destroy this world. All will fall if you do not comply." Nilo's crown glowed brightly. He looked at Eli, small hands trembling slightly, but eyes filled with determination. "I will not obey," he said softly. "I will protect. This is my choice." Eli felt tears in his eyes. The small crowned one who had come from the stars had chosen a human world over his own destiny. He had chosen Eli, chosen friendship, chosen a path the galaxy had never seen before. The lead ship fired a massive beam toward the mining field, enough to flatten everything. Eli screamed, expecting the worst, but the crown pulsed, spreading a dome of energy over the planet. The beam hit the dome and shattered into sparks, harmlessly scattered across the horizon. The soldiers tried to advance, but every step they took was blocked by invisible energy. The crown reacted to every movement, protecting the small child who had become a force of nature. Eli watched, awestruck. The child was no longer just a boy. He was the crowned one, and his choices shaped the fate of the world. Days turned into nights. The old systems tried every tactic, sending faster ships, stronger waves, and larger groups of soldiers. Nilo remained calm, learning from each encounter, growing stronger, and teaching Eli the true meaning of courage. One evening, as the sun dipped below the gray clouds, the lead ship approached closer than ever. The voice came again, commanding, threatening, "Return, or all will be lost. You cannot resist us forever." Nilo's crown spun faster than ever. "I resist," he said. "I stay. I choose." The ship pulsed, sending a wave meant to break the crown. Eli braced himself, holding Nilo close. The air filled with energy. Lights danced across the tunnels. Machines hummed and clicked. Then, with a sudden flare, the crown expanded, brighter than ever before. The wave hit it and shattered into light that rained harmlessly across the world. Eli felt strength flow through him. He realized that this was not just power. It was choice, courage, and heart combined. Nilo was small, fragile in appearance, but immense in will and intelligence. He had learned from humans, from Eli, from the simple courage that refused to bow. The fleets retreated slightly, cautious now, sensing that the child was not ordinary. They had never faced someone who fought without weapons, who led without fleets, who protected without fear. Nilo had become something beyond their understanding. That night, Nilo and Eli returned to the tunnels. The crown glowed softly, dim but steady. Nilo sat beside Eli, small hands resting on his knees. "They will come again," he said softly. "They will not give up." Eli nodded. "Then we will be ready," he said. Together, Nilo smiled faintly. "I have learned," he said. "I understand them now. Their strength is in fear. Mine is in choice. Mine is in courage." Eli held the child close, realizing the truth. Nilo had become more than a protector. He had become a symbol. The small crowned one who belonged to the stars had chosen to stay, and in doing so, he had shown the galaxy a new way of strength. The next day, the fleets returned, but with hesitation. They tested him, pushed him, tried to find a weakness, but none existed. Nilo's control was precise, calm, and unmatched. He protected the mining world without harming unnecessarily, teaching the old systems that power could be different. Weeks passed. The crown glowed constantly, responding to every signal, every movement. Nilo's mind grew sharper. He began to understand strategy, control, and leadership. He had become a new kind of leader, one who did not need fleets or weapons to inspire fear. His inspiration came from courage, choice, and protection. One morning, Eli watched Nilo stand outside, the crown glowing above him. Ships hovered above, silent, cautious. Soldiers were frozen, unable to move, their machines locked. Nilo raised his hand, and the world seemed to pause. "They test again," Eli said. "They always do," Nilo replied. "But I am ready. I will not obey. I will protect. I will choose. Eli felt tears in his eyes. The small, crowned one had fallen from the stars, yet he had chosen a human world. He had chosen Eli. He had chosen courage over fear, heart over control, and freedom over obedience. The fleets retreated slowly, sensing that the child was beyond their understanding. Nilo's crown glowed softly, a calm light that promised protection. Eli held him close. The stars above seemed brighter, patient, and full of possibilities. The small crowned one had shown the universe a new kind of strength, and Eli knew that the final battle was coming, one that would decide not just the fate of the mining world, but the fate of the galaxy itself. Nilo rested his head on Eli's shoulder. I stay, he whispered, for this world, for you. And Eli knew that as long as Nilo chose to stay, hope would live, courage would endure, and the stars would never be the same again. The sky above the mining world was filled with stars, shining brighter than usual. Eli and Nilo stood outside, the crown above the boy's head glowing faintly, like it sensed something coming. The fleets of the old systems had returned, larger and stronger than before. They had brought their leaders, their best soldiers, and their fastest ships. The galaxy had sent its strongest force to claim the small crowned one. Eli felt his chest tighten. He had no weapons, no way to fight them directly. All he had was Nilo, the child who had chosen to stay, and the crown that pulsed with power beyond imagination. Nilo looked at the sky. His small hands clenched slightly. The crown above him glowed, spinning faster than ever. They come, he said softly.
They want me to lead. They think I will obey.
They do not know I choose. Eli nodded. Then we fight, he said. Together. The fleets moved closer, their ships silent and threatening. Soldiers dropped to the surface, weapons humming with energy. But Nilo did not flinch. He raised his small hands, and the crown above him pulsed with a bright blue light. Energy spread across the mining field, creating a dome that blocked every attack. The soldiers froze, their machines locked, their weapons useless. Eli watched, amazed and terrified. Nilo had become more than a child. He was the crowned one, a force of nature that could control fleets and machines without moving more than his small hands. A voice came from the lead ship, deep, commanding and echoing in their minds. Return to us. You were born to lead. The crown belongs to the old systems. Obey. Nilo shook his head. I do not obey, he said. I choose my own path. I protect, I learn, I decide. The lead ship pulsed with energy, sending a massive wave toward the planet. Eli braced himself, expecting destruction. But the crown expanded, glowing brighter than ever. The wave hit it and scattered harmlessly into the sky. The soldiers could not move, the machines could not act, and the ship staggered in the air. Eli realized something. Nilo's choice was more powerful than any fleet. The old systems ruled with fear, but Nilo ruled with courage, with heart, with will. He had learned from humans, from Eli, from the simple bravery that refused to bow. Hours passed as the fleets tested him again and again. Stronger waves, faster ships, larger groups of soldiers. Every time Nilo's crown protected, controlled, and blocked their attacks. He did not strike unnecessarily. He did not destroy more than he had to. He was learning, growing, and showing the galaxy that power could be different. Finally, the leaders of the old systems themselves appeared. Ships larger than cities hovered in the sky, filled with the ancient rulers who had ruled the stars for centuries. Their presence made the ground tremble. The voice of the oldest leader spoke, echoing through the mind of Nilo and Eli. "You were born to rule," it said. "You cannot refuse. Accept the crown and take your place. Refuse, and all will fall. The world, your people, your companion. Everything will end if you do not obey." Nilo's crown glowed brighter, spinning faster. The small boy looked at Eli, then back at the sky. "I do not accept your rule," he said. "I am my own. I choose freedom."
I choose to stay here. The leader sent a wave of energy so strong that it shook the mining world.
Eli grabbed Nilo, trying to protect him, expecting the worst. But the crown expanded into a dome of pure light that covered the entire planet. The wave hit it and shattered harmlessly. The leader's ships wobbled, their fleets halted, and the soldiers fell to their knees, powerless. Eli watched in awe. The small child who had fallen from the stars had become stronger than entire civilizations, and yet he did not use his power to destroy. He only protected, only chose, only showed the strength of courage and choice. Nilo closed his eyes and whispered words that Eli did not understand. The crown glowed brighter than ever. Ships above staggered and shook. Energy flowed from Nilo through the crown, connecting to every machine, every system, every signal the leaders had sent.
"You will not take me," Nilo said.
"I belong here. I stay." The leaders hesitated, sensing a new force, a new kind of power. They had expected obedience. They had expected fear. They had not expected choice, courage, and protection combined in one small, crowned child. The crown shone with a light that spread across the galaxy. Signals from the old systems faltered. Fleets stopped. Machines shut down. Soldiers could not move. Entire systems paused as the power of the crown, guided by Nilo's will, rewrote the rules. Eli realized then that this was not just a fight. It was a revolution. Nilo's choice, his courage, his protection, had changed the balance of power. The old systems could no longer command with fear. They had been shown that strength came from choice, not domination. Hours passed. The fleets finally withdrew, not defeated in battle, but defeated in understanding. They could not force the child to obey. They could not take the crown. They left, retreating to the stars, uncertain and cautious. The sky cleared slightly. The clouds parted. Nilo lowered his hands, the crown slowing, glowing softly. He looked at Eli, small but strong, tired but determined. "They will return someday," he said, "but for now we are safe." Eli held him close. "You did it," he whispered. "You protected everything." Nilo smiled faintly. "I learned," he said. "I understand now. Strength is not in control. It is in courage. In choice, in protecting those you care for." Days passed. The mining world slowly returned to normal. Machines worked again. The skies were calm. The people of the planet never understood what had happened above them. They only noticed that the storms had stopped and that the dust seemed brighter somehow. Eli and Nilo returned to their quiet life. The crown above Nilo's head had shrunk, dimmed, becoming a symbol rather than a weapon. Nilo played, laughed, and learned with Eli, a child in appearance but wise beyond years. He no longer controlled entire fleets, but he had proven that choice, courage, and protection could challenge the galaxy. One evening, Nilo stood outside looking at the stars. Eli joined him. "Do you miss them?" Eli asked softly.
Nilo shook his head.
"They belong to the stars," he said. "I belong here. I stay for this world. For you." Eli smiled. "You could have ruled the stars," he said.
But you chose something better. Nilo nodded. I chose friendship.
I chose courage. I chose life. I chose life. The stars shone brightly above. For the first time, Eli felt peace. The small crowned one who had fallen from the stars had stayed, had protected a world, and had taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Legends spread slowly, far and wide, of the small crowned one who belonged to the stars but chose to remain. Stories of courage, choice, and protection reached distant planets, inspiring generations. Humans learned that even a single heart could change the universe. Eli watched Nilo, the boy who had become a legend. The crown above his head was now only a soft glow, a reminder of what he had accomplished and what he had chosen. "You are a hero," Eli said softly. Nilo smiled. "No," he said, "we are heroes." Together, the stars above seemed to twinkle in agreement. The galaxy had changed, not through fear or destruction, but through courage, choice, and the quiet strength of a small child who chose to stay. And Eli knew that no matter what fleets returned or what challenges arose, the small crowned one had rewritten the meaning of power. The universe would never be the same. The mining world was quiet, peaceful, and alive with hope. Nilo stood beside Eli, small in size but immense in heart. The crown glowed faintly, a symbol of courage, choice, and the promise that even the smallest could change the stars. Together they looked at the sky, knowing that the future belonged not to fleets or weapons, but to those who chose to stand, protect, and inspire. And in that quiet moment, the galaxy seemed to listen. The small crowned one had stayed. And in staying, he had changed everything.